Hey everybody, back again. I know it's been like a month, and I wanted to do these things every week or so, but you know, the thing about mental health, it just happens sometimes, and you don't really know which way it's gonna go. So, I'm here now, and that's what's important. Keep telling myself that this is not a fail state. But yeah, I basically dropped off the earth for about a month there, and it was pretty intense. I guess that's what we're gonna be talking about today. Let me just, I should have done this before I started recording. Let me pull up that, the pattern I was using. You'll be pleased to know I have made zero progress on this thing since last time we spoke. I had all these plans to, you know, record some footage ahead of time, make it easier to talk, whatever. I didn't do it. So, alright, this is, alright, next step is just knit 2, purl 2 for a really fucking long time. About 25 rounds. So let me pull up a notepad so I can keep track of how many rounds I'm doing. One done, 2 done. Alright, we can do that to start counting down. So as always, all I say as always is if this isn't the second one of these I've done, but I'm just going to talk for a really long time. Before I start though, make sure you check the description. After I'm done doing all this crap, I'll try to put any relevant content warnings if I start getting into really heavy shit in the description. So definitely practice self-care and check that out. And if you can't watch this video, that's okay. Take care of yourself first. Alright, so here's this thing. How do I start with what's been going on? How do I even start knitting? I feel like I've just completely forgotten how to do the knitting. Alright, I need to go this way. That's what I need to do. Alright, I started off with a purl. I guess I did actually start this round with knitting 2, purling 2, because I am in a purling position. My thread is on my side of me rather than the knit position where it would be there. So I'm just going to continue on as if I knew that I was doing that. Alright, where to start? Where did we leave off last time? I remember I had just had some kind of great revelation that I was really proud of. My last one. I remember spilling my guts a lot. I don't know. Part of my issue, let me tell you right now, is that I meet the diagnostic criteria for something called dissociative disorder, not otherwise specified. So it means basically I don't dissociate as much as someone with, say, DID, but I have a lot of memory problems. That's a little hard for me. So I am a person who is currently between jobs, right? Like a lot of other people. And I've been applying for a bunch of stuff. And I finally got a call back, which was super exciting. It was for this place in North Dakota, which is somewhere I've never been before. But, you know, I don't mind, you know, I like cold places. I like that it's cheap to live there. I like the low crime rate in the place that I would have been moving to. And that was like the first callback I've had this cycle, right? Like, I was pumped, I was ready to do this. I was like all in on this thing. I put so much energy into it. Went through the first interview, aced it. Second interview, they had to, it was a practical. I had to do a demonstration for them. I had to do a presentation for them. And, you know, I don't know if I was just anxious, but that didn't feel like it went too well. I ended up not getting the job, so I guess I did flub it. But anyway, I put so much energy into that. I put so much hope into that. It's not really easy for me to hope about things. I'm a very pessimistic person. But I did for this thing, you know, and I was disappointed by it. And that really sent me into a tailspin. Like, I can't... I should not take it that personally. I understand that because of the times we live in, there are a lot of people who are qualified in the exact same way that I am, who are all out of work, who are all applying for the same things. There's a huge amount of competition out there, and they had to make the best decision that they could, you know, about who got hired. And it's probable that they picked somebody who was older than I am, somebody with slightly more experience, somebody with a slightly more commanding presence. And, you know, that's fine. That's what they need. It was a pretty small staff place. You know, I can logically think about all the reasons why it went to somebody else and not me, but that doesn't change the fact that I put so much of my own self-worth and self-value into the amount of money I make, you know? And it's like I have all these side projects going that honestly haven't made me much. And I've just been sort of... It feels like I've been leeching for months now, you know? And I can't stand that. That is a huge blow to my self-esteem. And then to have this thing not work out, and I may have gone a little far, you know. When I had made it to the second interview, I was so pumped that I was like, okay, now I need to start looking at places to live in case they make me an offer. And they're like, how soon can you get here? And I picked out this beautiful little blue house. It wasn't really beautiful, but, you know, I've never lived in a house before, and thinking that that could be mine to live in, you know, it was a rental, but it was still a house, you know. I was really excited about that. Anyway, I was just devastated by it, and I haven't really known how to deal with it. I've tried talking to folks in my real life about it, but as usual, that's not very helpful. Because I'll say things to them like, my self-worth is intrinsically tied to the amount of money I'm making, and it's for reasons. Most of them are trauma reasons. Let's go. And they'll just be like, no, you're worth so much more than that. And they say all these really, like, nice things. And I'm just like, you're so full of shit. I don't accept this. I can't accept this. I don't hear this. This isn't working for me. This isn't making me feel better. I'm just irritated with you. And, you know, that's not right. That's fucked up. I recognize that. I do work on that. But it's just like, the thing I need to hear isn't really, you know, low-key and validating my experience. I wish someone would just acknowledge that that is how I experience self-worth at the moment. Even if it's not the most healthy thing in the world, it is what I do. And work with me based on that. But as it is, it's just been like, oh, you're great, don't worry about it. Like, there'll be other shit coming along, you know. You're great. And wow, I should have turned my phone volume off. That's gonna be annoying. I'm probably not gonna get up and do that. Alright, I finished this row, so let me note that down. But yeah, it was just a wash. I don't really have language to describe the kind of crash that I had after that. But I was in bed for a week straight. That was it. And even now, it feels like, I made this really great analogy yesterday, and I'll share it with you, but since then, it's just felt like some part of my brain that I can't access. I have no idea where it is. Somewhere in the file system. It feels like a corrupted image file looks. So like, you know, the aesthetic of the things with like the blotchiness and the weird colors and all that kind of shit. That's exactly what my brain feels like. At least a part of my brain that I can't access. And so that's been a little terrifying. I keep having random general anxiety attacks, which is really hard to deal with because I'm used to like, so there's like trauma anxiety and then there's general anxiety, right? Trauma anxiety, at least I'm talking about my experience. Things that I recognize as being directly related to like a trauma response or whatever, or a trauma memory, I can like reason with those things and deal with them in that way. I can, there are things to do about a trauma anxiety. So like, I have a lot of anxiety about going outside, period. I'll spare you the gruesome imagery of like what happens in my brain when I have to go outside, but long and short of it is I'm terrified to go outside, and I think that something very specific will happen when I go outside, and I can deal with that. I can look around, I can look out the little peephole in my door, I can even look out the mail slot if I need to. I know it's creepy, but it works. And I can check for threats. I can go outside and look around, and if anything is unsafe, I can go immediately back inside. Like, it kind of feeds into the whole hypervigilance thing to act that way, but it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't impede me from going places when I need to go there. Because, I'm never going to find the thing I think is going to be threatening to me. So I can just go about my merry way. And so, I can deal with trauma anxieties. I figured out a system to do it. But this general anxiety shit, man, it's like, I'm just anxious. I am just on the verge of a panic attack. I am just existing in this space, and there's nothing to do about it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Like, if I look at it closely, as I've been trying to do, it's like, yeah, it does stem from this trauma thing. It does stem from this idea that the primary metric of self-worth that I have, has been taken away from me or whatever, and I'm freaking out because of that. But like, that's not necessarily specifically a trigger. There's nothing concrete, in the present that I can focus on to help me beat it, It's just like, I am just anxious. In the moments where I do feel anxious, I don't feel like someone's like attacking me or anything. I don't feel like there's a threat of violence. It's just anxiety for the sake of anxiety, and I have no idea how to deal with it. So, I think that has come to a head, and that I hope I've passed the worst of it by now. Because, even just a few days ago, I was thinking to myself, like, I can't afford it, but maybe I should go to the hospital. Maybe I should check myself in. Have somebody, like, listen to me and maybe get the help that I need. Because I was just really messed up, I didn't end up going because I can't afford it. I don't have money. I don't have insurance. I don't have any of that crap. So, like, I don't want to dig myself into a debt hole because I can't handle it, Which is a pretty destructive attitude to have. But honestly, I have a roommate And if it comes down to it, my roommate can watch me to make sure I don't do something stupid. You know. So I am safe if I don't go to a hospital, no matter how bad I get. And so, you know, what's the point? I'll fucking deal with it. Man. But so that was a bummer. That's still a bummer. I'm still struggling with it. It's been so hard to apply to more jobs since then too, and it's like I need to, because tis the season for it and all that shit. But it's just like I look at it and I just have this anxiety thing happening, and I just like have a full-on anxiety attack. I can't stand it. I really should stop doing this on the floor because my feet keep falling asleep because it's a hardwood floor. And I have to keep like readjusting and shit. And it's hard because it's like, this is my laptop. This is my laptop right now. And if I kick it in the screen, it's going to crack and I'm not going to have a computer anymore. The microphone is off to the side also. And if I kick that over, that's going to sound real bad. But, you know, we're just gonna try. This fucking blanket. I love it. It's very comforting to me. But oh boy, does it get in the way sometimes. Alright. Let's try that out. Let's see how that goes. Oh yeah, it's been super hard. I am vaguely hatching a plan to try to pick up a job that I am overqualified for, and just so I can get something, because like I said, you know, the field that I work in is so saturated with people. It's already a little oversaturated, you know, but then like the pandemic happened, and there's gonna be the normal like people switching back and forth, you know, finding new jobs, fucking progressing their career or whatever. But then there's also like graduates, like up and coming graduates. Like I graduated during the pandemic. I didn't get a graduation because of the pandemic, and like none of us got jobs right out the gate or anything. And now there's about to be a whole other cohort who are graduating, and like there are jobs opening back up. That's 2 whole cohorts of people who are looking for something to do. And I don't really have a whole lot of ego invested in like, ooh, put me in the big shiny place, let me be famous, let me do this, whatever. I literally just want to make enough money to be able to live comfortably in a place, to be able to go out when I want to without feeling guilt about it, and to have a cat. Like, I desperately need a cat in my life. And like those are my only goals. So I ended up finding this part-time thing near where one of my family members lives. So like I could stay with that family member and be okay to live even though it's only part-time work. And then, you know, from there I'm not like phobic of working or anything. I would pick up a second job and like move out of there because I hate being dependent on anyone. Even that family member. I don't like most of my family members. I don't get along with them. A lot of them have directly contributed to trauma things. And I avoid them. But, you know, this one's really good. I love their family so much. And so short term, I think it would actually be really nice to live with them because they're super positive. They believe in me a lot. They do the thing where they tell me like, oh, if they don't hire you, they're dumb. They just can't see how great you are and all that crap. And I'm like, I wish you weren't so ableist about this, but that is a very sweet sentiment. And for some reason, the thing that goes off in my brain that's like, oh, you're so full of shit, I'm irritated at you, stop being positive, doesn't really go off around them. It's just sort of nice. And I think I really, need that right now. I need people to just sort of be nice to me for a while. Ever since I graduated the first time from college. Spoilers, I have a graduate degree. But I graduated the first time, and it was such a trip because I was like, I didn't think I'd get it. I didn't think I'd get this far. I didn't think I'd even get to fucking 18 years old. And here I am with a whole ass bachelor's degree. Now what do I do with it? And I had this huge identity crisis about it. And I realized that I didn't have any future plans, and I didn't have the ability to make future plans. And since then, I've just been I've been low-key working on the trauma processing for a long time because I've had to. At a certain point, if you don't start processing the stuff, it just sort of takes over your life and you can't function. And I was in college, I needed to function. And yeah, so I've been low-key dealing with it for a while in my way, which I'm not gonna say is a good way, but it's a way. And I got to a point after I graduated the first time where I was just I would really like it if, for once in my goddamn life, someone would just take care of me. And that's just kind of where I was, so I made a drastic life decision that would take me to a place where I thought I would have that kind of support. And, I didn't. And it ended up being this whole thing that I'll probably talk about at some point that's not now. But I've just been craving it, when I was a kid, there was a lot of taking care of myself I had to do. And that's just the way it was. I never got to have the experience that people have of oh man, adulthood is so scary. I'm so nervous about my first job. It's I've been working since I was 7, And that's just where I have memories of doing it. I don't know what I was doing before then. Probably something. My earliest memories are doing things for other people for things, and I've always been working for someone. I've always been earning my seat at the table, and I just whenever I was graduating, it was around that time where I just broke down and said, I'm so sick of this. My inner child, the therapist talk there, even though I'm not a therapist at all. My inner child is screaming to be taken care of. And I think if I do end up doing this part-time thing and living with my family member, I think I'll get that experience. They're super caring. They're not gonna just take all of my money, because they're greedy or whatever. Honestly, they're the kind of people who probably wouldn't even want to charge me rent for staying with them. And that makes me uncomfortable. But maybe I need to be okay with that. Maybe I need to work on why that makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I should accept help from my family without, from family and loved ones, without being such a fucking weirdo about it. Maybe I need to let myself get taken care of a little bit. It would be so nice to just be there, hang out with them. There are 4 people in their little family unit, and one of them like makes music and stuff and is really into music, and it's like, I'm really into music too. Maybe we can do some like cheesy ass little like family band thing, and that would be fun. I would love that. You know, we could like play video games together. I know they really like the Spider-Man game that came out on the PlayStation or whatever. They're PlayStation people. And it's like, they would give me space to like basically do whatever. Like, it would be a little weird that they would be treating me as a kid since I've been an adult for so long now. But maybe I deserve that, you know, for once, just to have the experience of just being a normal-ass kid in a functional house with functional people. Like, yeah, they have their issues too. I know they have their issues. I've heard a decent amount of it. But, you know, that doesn't scare me away. They're still kind people. They're still doing the best that they can. And for all that there are issues, like, they're coping with them productively. And that would be a genuinely safe place for me to be, where I wouldn't have to be just grinding all the time to stay alive. And I think even if professionally it's not the best move, like, it's still a good move professionally, because a lot of these positions are like, oh, do you have 5 years of experience? Like, bitch, no, I just graduated. Like, what do you expect? But, you know, the field that I've chosen for myself is very gatekeepy in that way. And so, you know, what if I just, like, hung out and worked in this place part-time for, like, a couple years? Like, I could do something, like, remote part-time also, and that wouldn't be stressful. Like, I'd go into the office, something like 30 hours a week, and I'd go home, fuck around on my computer for another 20 hours a week, and I'd be making pretty good money. You know, like I said, I don't need to make a lot to be happy or to feel fulfilled. I just gotta have enough to live. So that might be a good move for me. And ever since, you know, I started thinking about it in that way, I've started feeling a lot better. Like, the random anxiety has gone down a bunch. And I feel like I can actually, like, think and make coherent decisions again. I feel like I can look at, you know, job postings and not just want to die. I should probably put a trigger warning for the way that I talk about that. But who knows? I'll think about it if I remember that I said it. So yeah, that's a whole thing that happened. I'll probably end up still, like, applying now that I'm able to these, like, fancier, like, full-time whatever jobs. Just see if they work out. But I'm not gonna be putting as much into them as I did, because that was fucked up for me. Another thing that's been going on that I absolutely fucking hate. Let's go! I don't know, just in case I don't remember to put it in the description, I'm gonna be talking about, like, a person who is pretty manipulative, and in my opinion, verbally abusive, and, like, just all that kind of icky shit. And I'm gonna be talking about things they have done against me in recent weeks. So, you know, if it makes you uncomfortable to hear about somebody who's, like, low-key narcissistic and acting out, like, maybe, you know what to do, self-care and all that. But anyway, so I have this friend. This is related to the job thing also, in case you're worried that I'm just going on a non sequitur here. But I have this friend, and it's a friend that I've had for a really long time, which is special to me because, because of the amount that I've moved around and stuff in my life, like, it's been really hard for me to keep friends. I'm not the most outgoing person. I'm not the best at, like, communicating over the internet. I don't like doing that, actually. So I've had this friend for a really long time. Pre-college, even. And, we've dated before. Twice, actually. Because I didn't get the memo the first time, I suppose. But, it was good for what it was. The first time, we were both still in high school, and they were just, like, a child, Like, there's always been this thing where it's like, oh, you're so mature for your age, and I'm like, thanks, it's the trauma. And they just, like, were not there with me, and it was super awkward, and they just kind of, like, dropped me. Because, they graduated high school before I did, and they're like, I need to start a life, whatever. It was really sloppy, and then they just, like, blocked me from everything, because it was too painful, or whatever the fuck. And, I didn't hear from them for a while. And a couple years later, they sent me this really nice apology. And it's like, okay, whatever, we'll be friends. I don't give a fuck. Because, like, I really didn't. I don't get that attached to people, So I'm like, yeah, we can be pals. This is what I'm up to. What are you up to? And anyway, we ended up starting to date again. It was more serious this time. They were still a fucking child. But, it was part of the charm. And it's good for me to have people around who aren't as serious as I am, who aren't as bogged down as I am. That kind of thing. It's just, it's good for me. And, for what it's worth, I think we had a really good time together. But then, there's the whole thing where I graduated from college and I started having this, like, identity thing going on. And I was just like, nope, I need to go, bye. So I dropped them. It's a little more complicated than that. So I really appreciate how, like, easygoing or whatever they are, and how, like, different they are from me. I celebrate our differences. But they have this thing where they're basically like a really selfish child all of the time. So for example, this actually happened. I'm used to not having a lot of money. I've been very poor for most of my life, and they weren't working for a very long time. I had to practically force them to try to get a job. And this was, in their 20s, because they were staying with mom or whatever. That was a little weird to me, but it was fine, whatever. Anyway, they would just, like, get money for, like, it's a gig economy type thing. So they would make a little bit of money doing these things every once in a while, and they would just hang on to it because they didn't really have, like, bills or anything. And, so we would go out places to, like, Steak and Shake or some restaurant or whatever with a big group of friends. And, sometimes I wouldn't have the money to do that. I would go along. A lot of times I didn't have a choice because, I didn't have a car or anything. And the person who I was riding with wanted to go. So I would end up just going. And it's like, oh, let me just watch everybody eat, even though I haven't eaten in, like, 13 hours. And, they would just, like, get this full, like, thing of food or whatever. And they'd be like, oh, are you not eating? And I'd be like, I can't afford this right now. And they'd just be like, oh, that sucks, and continue stuffing their fucking face. Our other friends would, like, hear the exchange, though, and, like, would offer me their fries or whatever, and I'm really thankful to them for that. But the point is that this person, you know, was just like that. Super selfish, super self-centered. Most of the time we talked, it would be about them. They didn't really show a lot of curiosity about me, my interests, because my interests are very radically different from theirs. Like, we both really enjoy music, but, you know, I have a lot of trauma around music. I'm not looking to do it professionally, even casually a lot of the time. Like, I'm into making music independently, and even that I can't do all of the time because it's a trigger for me. But they were just all about it, and I was like, I have this really expensive 4-year education now about something radically different from that. I am planning on getting a graduate degree, which I now have, I'm happy to say, you know, and something that's even more different, that's, you know, and it's like, there's just no curiosity about it, there's no room for me to talk about it, and, you know, all of that just, like, flagrantly goes against what I've just explained of how it's like, I feel this urge to be taken care of, to be listened to, and it's like, you cannot give me that, I cannot be around you. So I left. And, we stayed friends. It was a little weird for a while, you know? I guess it, like, I'm coming to realize that it stayed weird on their end, even though I got over it. Because, you know, like I said, I don't get that attached to people. We all die eventually. And it is what it is. I also, like, I'm pretty, I'm a casual Buddhist, and I have been since I was, like, 13, so it's, like, one of the things you learn is about, you know, impermanence and everything, and being able to move on and accept things as they come, and so I just, like, I didn't have an issue, but apparently they did, but... But a little time went on, and both of us ended up getting in new relationships, and then it's like, a lot of things changed once they got into a relationship, because they're a really love-bomby person. If they are into you, they will talk to you incessantly, and want to do things with you incessantly. And, you know, it's really good when you have, like, no sense of self-esteem and someone's giving you attention or whatever. But I noticed as they got more enmeshed into this new relationship, you know, that they would still be like that with me. But then suddenly I'd get, like, a cold shoulder every once in a while, and they would just be gone for weeks at a time, which is an unusual behavior. And I am a person that does not like when others are unpredictable. And it's like, you know what? There's just a new dynamic. I should just get over it. We're not, like, merged at the hip anymore, and that's fine. This is a natural progression of things, and I got over it. And then, like, they started having issues with the person that they were in a relationship with, and I started noticing these really toxic behaviors coming out of them that I wasn't used to seeing so explicitly. Like, I known that they had a really bad temper from previous time we dated, because, you know, they would fight with, like, their mom or whatever a lot. It was, like, full-on, like, yelling matches and everything. And I'm just like, wow, that's triggering as fuck. Maybe don't do that around me. And it was like, oh, you're just gonna have to deal with it, basically. No apologies, no anything. Just like, that's just the way it is here. Anyway. So they started just getting really touchy about things. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to fault anyone for being sensitive, because I recognize that in a lot of ways I'm incredibly sensitive, And I know I ask for a lot of patience from people, so I think it's correct to extend that same patience towards others. But what I find unacceptable is when, someone is very sensitive, but then it's my fault and somehow that they're feeling badly, and then they decide that entitles them to have a rage attack at me. I don't think that's appropriate. That's like a hard boundary that I have. It's like, we can disagree, we can argue, but you will not yell at me. We're gonna talk it out like civilized adults. We're gonna talk it out like mature fucking people. And they just got into this rut where it's like every time we would talk, like it would go well for a few days, even a week or something, and it would be the whole like love bombing type thing. But then I would say something that they didn't like, and they would just go off on me. I'm talking about like multiple voice memos of just like raising their voice. Whole bunch of crap, my dudes. And then, when the pandemic happened, they decided that was the best time to move in with the person they were dating, even though they were having a lot of issues. Like, oh, it'll make it better if I move in, right? And I'm like, I don't think so, but I kept that to myself. It's not my place to comment on someone else's, life decisions like that. And I was just like, if you genuinely think this will be the best move for you, I wish you the best of luck. And so not only, they moved in together, and it was predictably a mess. And these weird issues started cropping up more, and I didn't hear from them for like months at a time. Like weeks and months at a time. And I'm just like, I get it, you're stressed, I'm stressed, we're all stressed. I wish you had communicated that you were gonna take a communication break, before you did that, because it's like, I'm very sensitive to love bombing. It's something I've dealt with before. And I keep calling what this person does like that, but I think it's true. Because they'll just be so obsessed. They'll be like, they're talking to me every single day. They'll be like complimenting me and all these things. And then suddenly, like, they're just gone. Like something happens and then they just fuck off for a really long time without saying anything. And it's like, I can't stand this shit. But so that was happening with increasing intensity. And then I finished another row. Woohoo! And then they decided that all the problems they were having with the new person was that the place was too small. There were, 2 of them and a cat. It was a very small place. I'd been there before. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I'm just over here, like, I did the same logic with the person I was dating because it was not going very well. But it's like, okay, we're gonna move, we're gonna start fresh, and it's all gonna be better. And then it wasn't. Of course it wasn't, because we didn't deal with the underlying problems that we were dealing with. Like, there's some, like, in my experience with my relationship that I was having, I recognize that I have a lot of damaged core content. I have a very specific way of viewing things. I have pretty specific ways that I like things being done. I have difficulty communicating about emotions, clearly. All these things. But then the person I was with also had pretty damaged core content, not in the same way as me, and that's fine, but we just like we hadn't done the work to figure out ways to accommodate each other effectively. And no amount of moving house is gonna fix that. So that's something that I learned, which I should have known already, but hey, hindsight and all of that. Anyway, so this person, who was my friend, started telling me all this, and then, you know, in my mind, I was highly skeptical. I was very worried about them, but it is their life. They have to make the decisions that they're going to make on their own, and I'll be there to be supportive, you know, if things go as badly as I am predicting. But like, who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll work out for them, and that'll be awesome. But anyway, so so when they were gonna tell me about this, they sent me a message that's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. It's, you know, it's big. And I, being a person with extreme anxiety issues, immediately freaked out. I'm like, oh, did something happen to you? Did something happen to your partner? Like, did something happen to your family? You know, it's a COVID time. There's a lot of shit going on. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And, like, I sent that maybe 3 seconds after I got the message. You know, anxiety powers activate. And, I was like, and then, you know, an hour passed, like over an hour. And, in my personal life, I do not have a lot of free time by myself. It's a little better now, you know, when I can be awake during the day, but there was a point where it was almost impossible for me to have any free alone time. And so, you know, an hour had passed since I got this message that freaked me the fuck out. And I started not having time anymore. It's like, I have to go do something else. I have a pretty rigidly structured life, and I have to go attend to these things. So I said, well, I don't have time anymore. Let me know when you want to talk about it. But I can't right now. I have to go do other shit. And, like, I have a very frank way of talking. And that doesn't change over text. Like, I'm a millennial who still ends sentences with periods unless I remind myself not to, you know? And it's just this thing where it's like text culture. It's just like, oh, I see a period, I must immediately feel the anxiety because the person who used the period is angry. And I'm just like, no, I like grammar. And I don't know. Anyway, that's just the way I am. So I've gotten complaints from a lot of people that the way I text is pretty severe, or makes them nervous or whatever. And I do my best to mitigate that, even though I don't understand what it is I'm supposed to be doing differently. But anyway, so this is one of those cases where I guess I came off too brusque or whatever, and they just sent me this like barrage of voice messages saying like, that's fucked up, fuck you, like I was just trying to tell you about this fucking house we found. And I'm just like, okay, step back. All I did was say, I don't have time to talk anymore. Let me know when you can actually talk about this. Like, apparently, like, they saw my text, and they were, like, at some function or whatever, and they, like, rushed out to be able to get home or to a place where they could actually talk to me, and it took them, like, an hour to do that. And I'm just like, you know, I can appreciate that that was a stressful situation for them. I don't know why they put themselves through that. Like, without I don't get it. I don't understand that, but they did. And so they were stressed out. And then they finally got home or whatever and saw that I couldn't talk anymore. I can understand how that would be disappointing. But like, poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And I did not insult them, you know, when I was saying what I was saying. I didn't make any blame statements or anything. I just said, like, well, I did have time, but I don't anymore. Which I can see, like, how if one is prone to being defensive already, how that could come off as attacking, I guess. But I only learned that after the fact, you know. I wasn't, like, trying to do that. I was just saying I had time. I no longer have time. But I've been convinced that that is an aggressive thing to say. And so they just went the fuck off on me. And I'm like, can you not go the fuck off on me? Like, I get you're upset, but you don't have a right to treat me like this. And they're like, yes, I fucking do. Stop invalidating me. And really, like, that, more than anything, I think, sets the tone for the way we've been interacting for almost a year now. And it's like, they have some, like, complex about... So, I don't like being love-bombed. I'm very sensitive to it. And so, when they started doing the thing where they would talk to me nonstop for a number of days and then fuck off for a few weeks, I was like, hey, can you just, like, let me know when you're signing off? Like, can you let me know when the conversation has ended? Because, like, I'm the type of person, if I'm having a conversation with someone, I concentrate on that conversation. I treat texting a lot as if I were speaking to them face to face. When you're speaking with someone face to face, you don't, like, I don't know, go off and you don't start, like, reading a book and take, like, 3 hours to respond if you're having a face-to-face conversation with someone, you know? And that's how I treat texting. I don't see why it has to be so different from face-to-face communication, but apparently it is. But I asked, like, hey, this is something that really bothers me. I like to have closure to a conversation so that I can deal with, like, my focus issues. And I know clearly what it is that I am meant to be, like, concentrating on at the moment, because it takes me I have to concentrate a lot to have a conversation with a person. It eats up most of my focus. I can't really do much else if I'm talking to someone. So I'm like, you know, I understand you're busy, I understand your schedule is unpredictable, but if we are talking and we're having, like, a full-on conversation where we're, like, texting back and forth every minute or so, can you let me know if you have to step away? Because it gives me a lot of anxiety when, you know, we're just talking and then suddenly you're not there for 4 hours or 4 days. And they started fucking yelling at me about that, and they developed this complex about it, like I was forcing my anxiety onto them or something, that I was trying to manipulate them, that I had unreasonable expectations of others. And I'm like, all it takes, like, I'm not saying, like, you have to do this thing. I'm asking you to make an effort because it would help me out. That's a pretty, I don't know. Maybe if people watch this, you can weigh in the comments of whether I'm making an unreasonable request or not. But so they started getting this, like, complex about it. And now it's like everything I say is judged on that context of a conflict that I don't have. And then, like, they started doing other things, too, that I just don't understand. Like, one of the times, you know, we'd be talking or whatever, and I would, you know, friends talk about sensitive things, and I'd be like, yeah, you know, something I worry a lot about is this thing, and, you know, they would reassure me about that, and I'm like, I love to see it. I love to see the growth. I'm actually talking about myself and having a positive experience. Like, this is amazing. I love this. I vibe with this. But then, like, when that happens, it's like 24 hours later, we would get into a fight, and they would use that thing that I said I was insecure about against me. They would accuse me of doing that thing. And they'd be like, wow, you're such an asshole. You're doing this thing that you're deeply insecure about doing. And I'm like, how fucked up is that? You know, we're not engaging any different than we usually do. But suddenly, now that I have told you about an insecurity I have, you're using that against me? What? And like, they also do this thing where, like, if I have a criticism of them, they'll be like, you should know me better than that. Like, if you really think that's the way I am, maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. And I'm just like, why are you threatening me, man? Like, why are you like this? Why are you doing this right now? But anyway, I promised it would come back to this job thing that I'm dealing with. And so, like, I think I said already, my second interview was more of a presentation type deal. So I'm like, I need to practice this presentation. I'm not the most confident speaker in the world. It would be good for me to make sure, like, my timing is right and that I'm communicating my points effectively if I can do the presentation once or twice. So I have a group of people that I regularly play video games with, and I'm like, hey guys, I have to do this thing for a job interview. It would, you know, it would help me out if one or two of you could, like, sit through it with me, you know, ask questions, look over my stuff, give me feedback. And they're like, fuck yeah, dude. So we set up a time, and it was awesome. I had a really good time. They were a great audience. And then come to this person I'm talking about right now. I told them the same thing. It's like, hey man, I have this thing that I'm pretty excited for, but I'm also really nervous for. And, you know, they volunteered to be an audience member too. And I'm like, hey, so it would be really helpful for me if I could do it with this group of people that I play video games with. I revise a little bit, and then I do it with you. So that, you know, I get the iterations going, I can work out all the kinks, it'll be great. So, and they were like, okay, sounds good. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the time that the people want to do it with me. I figure we would do it maybe 15 minutes after that. That'll give me enough time. And they're like, okay, sounds good. You know, all good. And they're like, you know, I'll go along with your schedule. You just let me know when you want things to happen. I'm like, oh man, this is so nice. This is surprisingly nice. You know, starting to feel good about things again. And then the time comes, and I'm like, all right, so they're running a little late. They've asked for like an extra half an hour. So this is like 3 hours before our start time. And I'm like, hey, is it okay with you? They need to push back by about a half an hour. It's gonna last this amount of time. I want 15 minutes after that to revise, and then we'll start. Is that okay with you? You can back out. No worries, no issues. I know you're a busy person also. And they were just like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I have to like take a shower. I'm like, we have like 4 hours now until the start time. You have so much time. Like, go take a shower. Bye. And they're like, bye. So I'm like, feeling good. Things are going great. I do the presentation with my gaming pals, and I text my friend and I'm like, hey, so we just got done. So, 15 minutes or so, you good? And they were like, oh man, I was just about to get in the shower. And I'm like, what? And it's like, well, I've already, planned the rest of my day. And it takes you like 2.5 hours to shower. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we don't have to do it then. Like, sucks, but, whatever. And then I like said like, oh man, why did it take you like 4 hours to shower? Dang. And I was like, LMAO, because you're supposed to add those things to text to convey inflection or whatever. And they started going the fuck off on me. Like, I thought you said I had plenty of time. And I'm like, yeah, 4 hours ago I said you had plenty of time. And like, why are you blaming me for these things? And I'm like, it isn't my fault that you have poor time management skills, that you made a commitment and that you didn't act in a way that would allow you to keep it. Like, I am not sorry about this. But like, I was really hoping you would pull through for me this one fucking time, and you didn't. So, obviously I'm disappointed, but I was making a joke about it to kind of like lighten things up a little bit, because it's not worth getting mad about. I'm not really mad about it. I'm a little disappointed, but like, it's not a huge thing, And they just like kept escalating, and they were like, I don't feel good, I need to go. And that was almost exactly a month ago now. I haven't heard from them since. Like, I sent them a message week and a half ago. Because I found this really excellent book that I read that I think they should read. And it might help with these communication problems we're having. And it's called, I forget who the author is right now. I don't have it near me. But, it's called Conflict is Not Abuse. And there's some subtitle to it that I can never remember. But, but it's about how there's this growing perception that any kind of conflict is abusive. And it's like, and the whole point of the book is saying like, well, actually it isn't. These are the differences between conflict and abuse, and here are ways to navigate these things. And it goes in scale from individual and interpersonal relationships to like Palestine, like that whole thing. So the author talks about a whole bunch of scenarios, a whole bunch of strategies, and I think she has a really good way of breaking things down. And part of these conflicts that I have been having with this person are that like, I feel like we have a conflict and then it turns into abuse. And I am not an abusive person. I'm just not. I am a survivor of abusive people. I know better than to be abusive. But I feel like this person is emotionally abusive towards me. And it's like, yeah, I've re-examined some of their behaviors through what I learned from this book. And I realized that I should probably revise my terminology. But it's like, I feel like they're in such a place right now. They are so sensitive to things right now that they are automatically reading any kind of conflict as abuse. And they are retaliating in the face of it. And I'm like, on the one hand, it's probably better that we're just like not talking anymore for however long they decide. But on the other, it's like I've never been able to like do music with people because, like I've said, it's like a trauma thing for me now. But I actually started a band with this person, and we launched our social media page at the start of the new year. We have a couple of tunes done. We're supposed to be working on a music video. We've been putting up a bunch of polls on like the Facebook page to get people to interact with. At least this was all the plan. We created these plans together. And then, you know, suddenly the silent treatment. So it's like all of that comes grinding to a halt. And it's like they just hold this thing over me. Because they're like insistent that we have to make all of the decisions together. Like they won't make any decisions on their own. And the implication is that I shouldn't make those decisions on my own either. And so it's like, good job taking this thing that you know is already traumatic for me, that is already difficult for me to do, and like using that in like a power play over me. Love that. So it's just things like that. Like, I would really like to just have that going. And I just like, I can't, because this person is acting the way they are. And I really don't have space in my life for manipulative people. I just don't. And I'm really struggling with how to navigate that because I value this person. There's been several huge breaches of trust, especially in the last year, that I don't know how to reconcile with. And I'm not, like, part of me isn't interested in being part of their life at all anymore, just because of the extremity of the way they've treated me. But I've also seen how good a person and how good a friend they can be. And I think that with some time, like, they have some extenuating circumstances that are going on right now. Not even like just the pandemic. There are some personal things that they're dealing with that I understand are extremely difficult to deal with. And they are not as self-aware as probably I am. They're not as emotionally regulated as I am. And, you know, maybe they'll just come around and they'll, like, be fine eventually. But it's like, how do I set and enforce healthy boundaries for myself with this person when they have repeatedly shown me that they will not respect my boundaries? You know, like, I've had conversations with them where I'm like, where I will specifically call something a boundary. Like, they have this thing that they do when there's a conflict with another person, where they'll be like, they're so convinced that they are correct, and they'll just be like, well, you're just not thinking about it enough. You're not putting enough thought into it, and that kind of thing. Or they'll be like, you're being illogical. I am correct because I am more logical. And I'm just like, don't fucking do that to me. That is a hard boundary that I will not negotiate on. That is straight up gaslighting territory, where you disregard what I say and try to convince me that what I say isn't well reasoned, so it should be disregarded. And I'm like, no, that's crazy making. I will not tolerate it. And they're just like, wow, you're not even open to negotiating about it. I'm just supposed to accept it. I'm like, in this case, yes. Because every other time I've tried to set a boundary with you, your version of negotiating is to just say no and not do it. Like, that's because it's an inconvenience to you to work with me about things that I want or that I need, because it's all about what you want or what you need. So, yes, in this one instance, I will make a demand of you that I am not willing to negotiate about. And, then they stopped talking to me again. So, it's just, like, how do you set boundaries with someone like that? Like, the obvious solution is just cut them off entirely, because they are such a negative force on my life, and I have so much other shit going on right now that I cannot handle it. So I should just, like I already decided about a year ago, it's like, let's limit contact with this person. Let's limit the kinds of things I'll share with this person. And that was a really good move for me. But it's like, if I do that much more, then it's going to be like, hey, I've decided that for my own well-being, I can't talk to you until you get your shit together. Like, that's... And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily a healthy way to go about that. And I don't really know a better way to do it. But I almost feel like no contact, mutually agreed upon no contact, would be way better. I don't know. I have so much more to say about this person, but like, even though I'm keeping them anonymous and not letting you know like what gender they are or anything, it would still feel gross, like violating their privacy if I talk too much about it. But there are so many complicating factors going on with them. And like, I feel bad for them, you know? I want them to succeed. I want them to be happy. I want them to be fulfilled. And it's just like, they just have this fucking rage problem, this unexamined rage problem, that if you try to talk to them about it, it just gets you in the shit, you know? And like, I can't deal with that anymore in my life. I've gone through it enough with enough people. Like, I'm not going to be insulted, degraded even, for calling out manipulative behavior when I see it. I'm just gonna be like, wow, this is manipulative as hell. Can we not engage like this? Or asking to like, hey, things are getting pretty heated right now. Why don't we take some time, say about 10 minutes, to practice some grounding and some self-soothing and, meet back up. I am sick of being screamed at for saying that, And I don't... It's just hard. I don't really know what to do about it. And it's like, I have another friend who is a really great person. I love them so much. And we don't talk as much as I would like, because, I'm a bastard and I have a really hard time communicating over the internet. But they've started doing music again. They started talking to me about it and have some ideas for like doing things and stuff and things. And I'm just like, man, I would love so much to do this. I have these anxiety issues though, and I'm having this issue with this person who happens to be a mutual of ours. Oops. So I let this person know that, like, hey, I'm having some pretty big mental health issues right now. I'm not talking to anybody, it's not just you. I need time to figure this stuff out. And they were super nice about it. Like, take all the time you need, bud. And, like, they've sent me a couple of messages since then, like, trying to check up on me and stuff, which I appreciate. It's like, hey, I hope you're doing okay. Like, how's everything going? And I'm like, I cannot respond to this right now because I am fucked up. Like, I should do that soon. Just to let them know that, like, nothing happened to me. Because in their position, like, if someone I knew and cared about told me, like, I'm fucked up, I need to take a break from everything for a while, and then And then, like, if it had been over a month, because my absence from this person has been longer than my absence from this channel, right? And, you know, if it was just dead silence from them for a while, I would probably freak out. Because, you know, it's like, oh yeah, take a week, take 2 weeks. But when it starts stretching into these super long periods of time, that's anxiety making, and I understand that. And I think I owe it to them to at least update a little bit. Be like, hey, I'm fucked up. I'm working through it. I'm sorry that this is taking so long. This is where my priorities need to be right now. But I just hope they seem mature enough to not take it personally, you know? Because it's like, it's not that I don't want to talk to you. I really do want to talk to you. I really want to do projects with you. But I just have so much that I'm trying to cope with right now that I can't add another stressor to it. And as much as I want to do this thing, it would be a stressor for me. Like, I hope they're doing well. But yeah, I feel like there was another point that I was gonna make today, but I'm not quite sure what it was anymore. I'm probably also just like really fucking up this knitting because it's like, it's so simple. It's like a knit 2, purl 2, which like I could probably do in my sleep, but like I think I've said it this time already, where it's like I have a really hard time talking to people and doing anything else at the same time. And this is like, I understand this is like talking to myself in front of like a camera, but it's still really hard to do this and talk. And like, also, like, my dissociation issues have been spiking so hard recently. So I'm just like sitting here like, la, 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 la. Oh wait, was that 3? Oh well, let's keep going. Yeah, I see it slanting. It means I fucked up already. It's fine. It's fine, it'll mellow out at some point. Or not, and it'll just be a big knitted mess. But it'll be comfy, which is what matters. God. Yeah, I guess a positive thing to just end off on is, like, I've pretty recently been working to verbally communicate the fact that I am a dissociated mess all of the time, because I am. Like, I can remember exactly one time where I've looked in a mirror and actually, like, felt that the thing looking back at me was actually, like, me. I don't feel connected to my body at all, ever. I lose time. I just forget things all the time. Like, I have a pretty serious issue with, like, dissociating, and it's because I am very stressed all the time. It's because there are ugly little things rearing their heads that I haven't dealt with. And it's just like, it's a coping mechanism to dissociate them away. But when it's so overwhelming, it means that a lot of my everyday life is just being dissociated. But, you know, the positive spin is like, I am communicating about it verbally with the person that I live with. Like, they'll just be, you know, telling me about their day or whatever. You know, normal day-to-day things. And I'll recognize when I'm just, like, checking the fuck out. And I'll be like, I am so sorry. I'm trying to listen to you, but I'm, like, I am in space right now. Would you mind repeating what you said? And they're just like, oh, yeah, you know, no worries. And they've been pretty nice about it. They don't necessarily understand, like, what's going on, but they're doing their best. And they're just like taking what I say at face value. It's like, oh, I'm not just like not listening to you because you're boring or whatever. Like that. Some people have been like, okay, I've tried to tell them, it's like, sorry, I'm just checked out really hard. It's like, oh, am I boring you that much? And I fucking hate that response. It's like, no, I have a dissociation disorder because of trauma. Can you not make it about yourself? But the person I live with has actually been really cool about it. And they're just like, we'll start, verbatim from the top with whatever it was they were saying. Or like, we'll be talking about what to make for dinner or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, well, food is body thing. Don't need to participate about body thing. Do not have a body. And so I'll just kind of like autopilot through the conversation. And then like 6 hours later, I'll actually be hungry. And I'll be like, oh wait, we talked about dinner before. What was it we were gonna do? And I just won't be able to pull the memory at all. Because I was on autopilot. I wasn't around for it. And I'll just be like, hey, I know that this conversation happened, but I don't remember actually being a part of it. What's going on? And they're just like, oh yeah, it was this thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Or like sometimes I'm like, oh god, that sounds terrible. What? And they're flexible enough that if I come to and decide that I really don't want whatever was decided upon for dinner, it's like, okay, well, let's do something else. What do you want? And it's, not an issue. So that's really good. I wish it was helping me not be such a dissociated mess, but at least it's helping me function while I am in this state. So that is good. But yeah, I want to try to finish out this row at least before I sign off. But, the goal for me here is still... Oh god, I have so much of this row left. We'll see. I'm going to talk about my plans and see if I stick to them this time. So, my goal is still to try to do one of these things around every week or so. I think it would be really good for me to be able to just sit here and talk without a filter on that regularly. And, because I don't really get to do that much in my everyday life. Like, just be able to talk about what I'm thinking and feeling and how things are affecting me, and because there's always something going on in my head, and it's not healthy for me to keep it cooped up in there. So it is a long-term goal of mine that I will do one of these every week. But as we can see from my current record, that's really difficult for me to do. So I'm gonna adjust my expectations and be kind with myself. And I'm gonna say doing it once a week would be optimal, would be ideal, but it's also okay if all I can manage is maybe once a month. I'd like to commit to once a month. I think if I don't set aside time once a month to just talk, to express myself unfiltered, then I'm doing something wrong. That's the point where I can be like, okay, we need to reassess. Because something's not going right here. So I think a once a month commitment is more doable for me, but with the goal that I'm going to make time for this once a week. I think that would be good. I hope someday soon I'll be able to, barring extenuating circumstances, I hope sometime in the next month or two that I'm gonna make one of these and I'm gonna say, like, oh no, like there's gonna be no content for a few weeks because I'm moving. I'm starting up a new job, you guys. Like, that would be cool. I would love that, actually. Like, I wouldn't, like, vlog the move or anything, because I don't want to show the internet where I live. I don't think that's a good thing to do. That would make me more anxious. But that would be great. But barring anything like that, or like, God forbid I get the COVID, and like have to go to the hospital or something, like, barring any of that, I think it would be good to try for once a week, but commit to once a month. So, I don't know, if anybody does listen to this, thank you so much for tuning in. Leave a comment if you want to. It would be nice to actually engage with people about this stuff, because I feel like I'm in such an echo chamber in my own head, and part of doing this is the hopes that maybe I can get some feedback on the way I'm thinking. And if anybody has similar experiences, maybe they can give me advice. I'm a little sensitive to advice that's super obvious, but you know, sometimes it's the super obvious advice that we need. What I'm saying is that I take explaining very personally. But yeah, thanks for dropping by. Sorry I'm so squirmy. I really should stop doing this on my floor. Let me see. You almost can't tell that I made progress, but I did. I about doubled. I more than doubled, actually, what was already there. I have so screwed up this Knit 2 Purl 2 thing. It is so messy. But whatever, you know, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be wearable, and it's gonna be cozy. And that's what matters. We're doing our best, but... Anyway, sorry, checking out a little bit. But it was nice to do this again. I don't know if I'll end up doing the thing where I just record a bunch of, like, knitting footage and then talk over it. I might end up just having to do it live, because it's a whole mindset thing. But we'll see. We'll see. Those are all decisions I have to make. But, that was nice. I do actually feel better for having talked about this. So, yeah. See y'all next time. Maybe. Oh, that was weird. Can't wave. This way? This way? Alright, bye everybody.